third part of the session was some questions and answers, and I knew we would always have limited time, so you may remember about 3 newsletters ago I invited people to send me questions that they would like to ask our UK visitors, and I got quite a number of responses, and I've tried to summarise those into the ones that seem to come up several times. There were, of course, some that were, on the way I judged them, fairly minor, or some personal issues. But I think the ones that I've put to Dave and Scott, and particularly Dave, were really the big issues that have come up. And already I see with the new models, some things like the ability to take 200 watts of solar power have already been added into. But probably for some of people here who have got 400 and 500, that's still not enough. But if we could go through those questions, and of course there's time to mingle with Dave and Scott during afternoon tea and later on as well.
Okay, the first question that David sent me was concerning the Comfortmatic gearbox. And whilst the Ducato has 2 pedals, and people may think it's an automatic, it's actually not. It's a robotized manual, which is significantly different from the traditional torque converter automatic, and it needs to be used in a different way. Whilst you can select drive and drive the vehicle normally as an automatic, it's vitally important that when you come to a hill, you engage the handbrake and do not hold the vehicle on the accelerator, even though there's 2 pedals there. And for those of you that may well have automatic cars, it's quite easy to let the vehicle stay on the hill and accelerate away. With a Comfortmatic, holding the vehicle on the accelerator is exactly the same as slipping the clutch in a manual transmission. And for those of you certainly with bigger vehicles, if you're not careful on steep hills, you can very often cook the clutch, and with disastrous consequences. So please, as a word of warning, whilst the Comfortmatic is a great piece of kit, it's no more heavier than a manual gearbox. It's important that you respect the dynamics of the product. Okay. Second question was down to door hinges maybe pulling out and things like that, and a question mark on screws or size of screws. One of the issues we've had over the years is people who expect more and more specification in vehicles. The chase for lighter and lighter weights is the never-ending goal. And whilst in the past we started off using Malaysian plywood, which is very robust, but also it's very heavy. Then we migrated into poplar plywood, which is lighter, but maybe not so dense, to the recent materials we're using, which is a balsa wood core and a Meranti face. The hard face gives you the surface finish, but the balsa core gives you the lightness of the material. And whilst it's still a robust material, when fixing into it, you really only have one shot. So if you slightly over tighten the screw, you can strip the material out. And we have been doing quite a bit of work recently on screw technology, and as a result, where we are fitting more and more plasterboard type of screws into the furniture to hold cabinet hinges. So for those of you that have experienced screws pulling out of hinges, etc., I apologise. And it is an ongoing task to try and find more and more, should we say, technically acceptable screws for furniture for these lighter and lighter materials. Okay, next question is solar panels, which we just touched on. So vehicles for this year with the new Sargent charging system, they will be able to take 200 watts. You can charge more than that, but you have to go directly to the battery, and you have to you have to fit your own voltage regulator, which I'm sure some of you do. But if you want to go through the Sargent system, as from 2016, it will take 200 watts. Next question was down to battery charging. The question was whether we can put a bigger charge into the battery, and having spoken to Ian, who obviously owns Sargent Electrical, Ian is saying that he's governed really by the battery manufacturers. We use Banner batteries, and the most that they recommend the charge for the battery is 14.8 volts. The new charging system from Sargent will put 14.8 volts in, but no more. Otherwise, you're in danger of cooking the battery and warping the cells. Next question is to do with grey water plumbing, and this is always quite contentious in the UK as well as in New Zealand. In the past, we fitted smell traps to kitchen sinks and also showers, with the resultant that yes, the smells stop coming up from the waste tank, but the flow of water from the sinks within the vehicle tends to be greatly reduced because of the head of water not having the capacity to push past the smell trap. In recent years, we've actually taken the smell traps off those sinks to help the flow of water. And in the main, people would prefer to have a sink which empties quickly, as opposed to a filter to stop smells coming back up. That's only a particular, should we say, choice of UK. You may feel differently. We've tried a number of different things of having slight bends in the pipe, and I know some of you in New Zealand do rework the wastewater system. I know Dan does from a tank point of view, because you have quite stringent rules and regulations on what you do with your grey water. I'm not saying we've achieved the perfect result as yet, but it's something which we are, should we say, it's an ongoing process of trying to find a good balance between good water flow from showers and sinks, and also stop smells coming back up from the waste tank. The next question, which is can be a bit contentious, is part supply. I'm sure there are people in the room here today where they've bought from Dan, and some of you may well have bought from UK dealers and brought your own vehicle into New Zealand. From a part supply, or should we say, when we build vehicles for Dan, we build vehicles to a New Zealand specification. And that New Zealand specification will include kilometres on the binnacle. It will include ADR approved water heaters, refrigeration, where a vehicle for the UK will have Northern European appliances fitted. And when we come to supplying spare parts, we supply the vehicles to Dan with no warranty. And that's not because we don't trust our own vehicles. The big problem we have is the return of parts. So if a component fails in the UK, the dealer will then send the part back to Auto Trail, and in turn we will then send the part back to our supplier for a credit. So it could be an entrance door, it could be a Hecky skylight, it could be a cooker, it could be a number of things. But obviously with the New Zealand and Australia, the distances are huge, and the cost of shipping parts back will cost far more than the part itself. So working with Dan, with Ashburton, and also with Elite RV, we've taken the policy to ship the vehicles with no warranty, apart from obviously from the Fiat warranty. But we do supply parts. We can supply parts which are in current production. We normally try and supply parts within 48 hours within the UK. And obviously with New Zealand being a little bit further away, we keep a core number of parts, or Dan keeps a core number of parts, particularly things like PSUs and things like that. But we can supply either air freight, or we can supply on surface water. So part supply is something which we're quite proud of in the UK. And I would say if any of you do need parts, then speak to your selling dealer. If you bought from the UK, again, the obligation is for you to speak to your selling dealers, or whichever dealer you bought from the UK. If you speak to your selling dealer, we can supply them with the parts that you require, and they in turn can ship out to yourselves. The next question is to do with warranty fitness, and I'm not totally au fait with what the regulations are in New Zealand, but I believe it's to do with the tracker EKS and having 4 persons in the vehicle. As Scott was saying earlier, the EKS in the UK is very much a 2-persons vehicle. We do not fit any more seat belts in the EKS in the UK, so therefore we treat it as a sole 2-berth vehicle. All our vehicles in the UK have to go through what's called whole vehicle type approval, and we have to meet European standards and European directives on weight and dimensions. All our vehicles are weighed when they leave the factory. We have our own dedicated weighbridge, which is plus or minus half a kilo. So we know all our vehicles. Any of you that will have a build number, if you send a mail to the factory or call the factory, we can give you the exact weight of that vehicle as it left the factory. So fitting additional belts to an EKS for us is a bit of a no-no. I know you can in New Zealand, but as far as we're concerned, that vehicle is only a 2-berth vehicle. Water ingress in the engine compartment. We have some gentlemen here from Fiat today, so they may be able to answer it better than myself. Whilst we work with Fiat on a regular basis, and I think the X290, which is the latest version of Ducato, is a much improved product over X250. But I believe there are still some complaints of water coming into the engine bay. I know in previous versions, water coming into the engine, and particularly stagnant or stationary water, can be quite catastrophic, because I've seen injectors seized into the cylinder heads and all sorts. There has been work done on X290 to try and manage water away from the critical areas. But if some of you still think that work needs to be done, please either mail ourselves or speak to your local Fiat dealer, and we will put as much pressure as we can on the manufacturing plant to try and make some changes. Fiat are a listing company, and their strapline is that Ducato was built to be a motorhome. I don't know whether you're aware, but when Ducato was first launched, they went around all the European manufacturers and asked for their wish list for a chassis, and the total was around 84 different types of modification that the converters were seeking in a new chassis. And of the 84, Fiat managed to achieve 78. Wow. Ranging from wide rear axle, captain's chairs, a pre-cut roof, so the roof and back panel are cut in the factory prior to shipping to the converters. So they are a listing company, and they do try and react wherever possible. But obviously Ducato is a commercial vehicle, And so there has to be a happy compromise along the way. So if you still feel that there are issues with Ducato, again, please mail in, and we will seek to see if we can address them. The next question was vehicle overhangs. Again, this kind of varies from country to country. I think in New Zealand, I think you have a maximum overhang of 70%, which is allowed. In Australia, it's 60%, and in Europe, with type approval, we can go up to 65%. We took the decision a couple of years ago that we would limit all our vehicles to 60%, which is below what we can go to in Europe, but predominantly it's because we can then export the same vehicle to Australia. Plus also having a vehicle beyond 60%, you can get a condition with the tail wagging the dog, but and particularly with front wheel drive, where the more weight you're going to have at the rear, you're going to have traction problems on soft ground. So as a company, 60% is the threshold line for us. The next question is the vent in the toilet. We have for those of you with newer vehicles, you'll see that the Thetford toilet has an extraction vent which goes through a carbon filter. We are looking at venting that to the outside of the vehicle. I know there's been some comments where even though there is a carbon filter, there can be some odours within the vehicle. And it's something which we are looking to change for next season. Next question is reliable repair services. And again, I'm not totally au fait with how New Zealand is structured with dealers and relationships with dealers and your own motorhome clubs and societies. But certainly in the UK, we have the National Caravan Council, and a number of dealers and repairers, whether they be mobile repairers or independent dealers, can be members of the NCC. The NCC will come around and certify that they're using the correct procedures, correct techniques, and their engineers have the right qualifications. Which means that whilst we always say to our customers, you need first port of call if you have an issue with warranty or a breakdown, you need to go back to your selling dealer. But if you're on tour, if you're away from your selling dealer, then the second option is again to contact Auto Trail or contact your selling dealer and to try and get into a local repairer. Which is very often achievable. But regarding New Zealand, I don't know what sort of relationship or society you have here. I don't know whether you have the clubs have a network of repairers. It's maybe we can have a chat afterwards. But I think certainly with a country the size that you have and the amount of vehicles that are on the road, it would make sense to have some sort of quid pro quo arrangement with dealers and repairers, at least so that you can get you back on the road as quickly as possible. Certainly in the UK, the majority of dealers are either Dometic approved or Truma approved, and even though they might not sell motorhomes, if they sell touring caravans and you have a gas leak, they can get you sorted pretty quickly. Likewise, if you have problems with Truma boiler or shore flow pump, they carry those parts on a regular basis. So maybe we can have a chat a bit later with any specific requirements. I think that's all the questions that you.
What, your 5-year warranty?
Sorry, yeah. 5-year warranty. We supply 5-year warranty with all vehicles that come to Dan, go to Ashburton, and also go to Elite RV in Australia. Predominantly it was designed for Australia because all the Australian manufacturers offer 5-year warranty with their products, and to compete on a level playing field, it was decided that that's the way we needed to go. It works where the selling dealer notify us when the vehicle is registered, and we in turn register that on the Fiat CG computer system. I know Fiat are working with a Teco in New Zealand, because there have been some, should we say, some anomalies on some customers going into dealers. But I think it's a case of working together with Fiat, with Teco, and I'm sure those anomalies will be, quickly sorted out. But the vehicles are say, where in Europe we have a 2-year warranty. For New Zealand and Australia, the warranty is 5 years on the chassis.
That's in the engine as well.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, engine, gearbox, turbochargers. It's a complete low power 5-year warranty. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just thank once again Dave and Scott for coming out and making it possible for you to come to our rally. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else does, and we'll try and nab you in the short time you're here, and extend some of those discussions that and information you've given us. So everyone, please, can we thank